Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's Dr. Eric Naputi. Here we go. We're going to talk about the most controversial conversation and topic in healthcare today. If you go and you ask Google or Chat GTP or Gronk, what's the most controversial topic in healthcare? And this is what you're going to find. You're going to find a conversation about the pandemic, COVID-19, treatments, protocols, how we responded, and all those things. The reason why I know that is I've just been recently asked to come and give a presentation in front of a global audience of people all over the world, physicians, politicians, policymakers, and people who are, we're trying to figure out new policies. And they said, hey, would you come and give a non-biased approach to the most controversial topic in healthcare? And I just kind of chuckled and said, well, I might not be the best person to ask about a non-biased approach, but I'll give it a try. And what I want to share with you are some of the notes of the conversation I'm going to have about the global problem that we had and the conversation that we still are not allowed to have, which is about COVID-19. So, hey, I'm Dr. Eric Naputi, functional medicine doctor. Hope you're doing well. I've been practicing now for over 2 decades. Have trained thousands of doctors. I've owned and operated dozens of my own practices, and I've been blessed to travel the world helping train other doctors and help patients get better by finding the root cause of their problem. One of the things that I got well known for, which is maybe not the best thing, but it is what it is. During COVID, we had over 11,000 patients come through our practices and nobody died. In fact, we didn't have anybody go to the hospital. And we were very vocal about it. And the United States government sued me for $508 billion. They were trying to intimidate me, trying to intimidate other doctors, make an example out of me. It was really silly what happened. And the reality of it is that it's just that was such a crazy time in our world. And I stood up against it. I won my lawsuit against the government. Boy, it was a crazy, like the aftermath of that was insane. But I want to share with you my notes that I'm going to be presenting in about a month on a global stage in front of doctors and scientists and politicians and policymakers across the globe about the most controversial topic in healthcare today, which is COVID-19 and the pandemic. So I want to know, what are your thoughts? I want to know, what do you think is the most controversial topic in healthcare right now? So let's just get into some of my notes. I'm going to read some of my notes. Some of these things I've still got to work out. I promise when I do the full presentation, I'll share it with you all. But I just want to dive into this in a couple different types of directions. I want to come from a place that's not rooted in fear or ideology, but I want to come from a place of curiosity, of compassion, and I want to come from a place of common sense. And we live in a world where common sense is just not that common anymore. And at the end of the day, I guess I was just raised this way. So I don't really care what you do as long as it doesn't affect me. And you shouldn't really care what I do as long as it doesn't directly affect you. And there could be arguments about that from a health standpoint. Those arguments a lot of times aren't valid because you might say, well, if you don't wear a mask, you're making other people at risk. We know that's not true. We knew that before. But that's also like saying if you eat fast food, you have a higher chance of getting a heart attack, which also could maybe had a heart attack driving and it could injure me on the road. Like where do we stop? So there's a divide in the world right now, and you can still feel it. I still feel it to this day. When it comes to vaccines, and it's silly. It's silly that on social media we can't say the word vaccine. Like, why not? It's a medical term that means you take something or given something or exposed to something, and your body then develops an immune response so that you now are immune to that. That's what the original definition of a vaccine was. And whether it's over vaccines and medicine or supplements or how healthcare costs should be or how to raise kids. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, these are cultural conversations, but censorship and judgment has really kicked in a big way. So listen to this. It's overdue. I believe it's overdue for us to have these conversations. And I think it's amazing that we're now being asked to have these conversations on a global stage, coming from a place of non-judgment. But boy, it's hard not to judge, especially when you've been sued for $500 billion. It changes you a little bit. And when the government lies about you and they tell people that you've committed fraud, which they now admitted I didn't, and you lose businesses over it because the government infiltrated your businesses and threatened business partners and business dealings. Like, that's crazy, but that really happened during this time, and not just to me, but to many of you as well. So the truth is not fragile. Okay. You see, the truth, by the way, it doesn't mind to be challenged. The truth it wants to be challenged. The truth will set you free, but only dogma and the beliefs, the religious beliefs that people have without real data or real life experience, that's what is fragile. So in today's world, both traditional medicine and natural medicine, we have beliefs that we believe are untouchable in the medical world and in the alternative healing world, right? And I live in both. I had the classic medical education. I've got the naturopath and chiropractic and internal health component from natural healing, that I get a little bit of both worlds of that. So in the medical world, questioning long-term safety of mRNA technology makes you a target. Why? Like, they're thinking about taking that mRNA technology and putting it into flu shots. I just want to know, is it safe and effective? And in the natural world, listen to this, all of you natural practitioners out there and crunchy moms and dads, in the natural world, questioning supplementation or questioning detoxification gets you labeled as a traitor. And let's be realistic. Like, real science asks the question, is this working or is it not working? I live in Missouri. It's the show me state. At the end of the day, I don't care what people think. I care what the results people get. And so it's not about your ego. It's not about tribalism. It's not about profits. It's about real information. I'm going to share some real information about you right now, about this right now. So listen, vaccines and censorship. That's a dangerous pairing. Let's talk about mRNA vaccines. So some see them as a marvel of science, and others experienced injury and autoimmune problems and turbo cancers and a disruption in their whole body. Like, they questioned everything about healthcare because of the experience that they had with mRNA technology. And I'll tell you, it's hard not to allow those people to do that because they had that experience. If you had that experience, you would too. Now, if you look on a global scale, when people question the dogma of medicine, it's usually because they've had an experience or someone in their family had an experience. Senator Ron Johnson is a great example of this. He's a senator out of Wisconsin, and Senator Johnson has really been leading the charge on vaccine safety and efficacy. Why? Because he had a grandchild who had an injury to a vaccine. When something happens in your life, it makes you go, what should be done differently so that doesn't happen to someone else? And what can I do to inform my family and others how to reverse these problems if possible? So, but because you know, I'm not trying to be anti anything. I don't think any of you are really trying to be anti anything. I think we're trying to be pro safety, pro truth, and pro people. If it's not about people putting people first, I'm not interested. If it's not about mission over money, I'm not interested. If it's not about people over profits, I'm not interested. And it's okay for us to say, let's look at the data. Let's compare the outcomes. Let's make sure that our kids and our families have the best science and the best data. And it's not a conspiracy. It's responsibility. By the way, I'm going to share with you at the end of this little post presentation today some of the things that were considered conspiracies that now are recognized as factual scientific evidence and truth. So, by the way, supplements aren't above scrutiny either. I mean, you live in the world of natural healing and natural arts and supplements and all that. Just because something's labeled as natural doesn't mean that it's good for you. I mean, some supplements interact with medication. Some people push detox too hard. Some people do things that they heard and saw a social media influencer talk about, but they don't have any business doing that, and they don't know why they aren't doing something. But being pro-natural doesn't mean that you're anti-critical thinking. It doesn't mean that you're anti-establishment medicine. It just means that you're pro-natural, that you want to try to solve the problems as natural as possible. I promise you that if you see a pro-natural person that gets hit by a car or stabbed with a knife or shot by a gun, God forbid, or struck by lightning, they're not going to want you to put some homeopathic remedies on that. They're going to want you to emergency allopathic medicine fix this so I don't die. and let's be curious again. I want us to be curious. I want to invite you to stop judging people. I'm as natural can be. I love natural medicine. It's saved my life. It's changed hundreds of thousands of people's lives. I've seen it with my own eyes. You can't tell me it doesn't work. But there are times when we need to have an allopathic approach to things. But I'm going to tell you that that's not always the case. And what's wild is there are a lot of there's a lot of conversations that people get they label as conspiracies around COVID. Like, how come we can't talk about this? Why are we not allowed to discuss this? And I'm gonna handle that conversation, that question in a minute. But let's talk about some conspiracy theories about COVID that truly turned out to be 100% true. Number one, the lab leak hypothesis. We now know unequivocally, we now recognize as a credible origin of this by the United States Department of Energy, the FBI, and multiple other, like almost every single organization on the planet is now saying has to come from a lab, has to have come from a lab. Okay, that means we as men, as human beings, altered a virus, and that then caused a big problem. Now, there's a ton of research and data that supports this isn't the first time. And if it's not the first time, and this time was really bad, why aren't we taking steps to make sure that it doesn't happen again? And so the lab leak hypothesis, not a hypothesis. We know that that's the real deal. We know that that SARS-CoV-2 was genetically modified. NIH, the National Institute of Health, has acknowledged that research funded by Tony Fauci and his teams, 100%, they showed that there was a furin cleavage site in there. That means it was manipulated. They showed that there was other signs of code in there that shouldn't be in there. Luc Montagnier, God rest his soul, the guy who discovered HIV, said, listen, this shouldn't be in here. He was right then, and he's right to this day. This is man-made and manipulated. Okay, we were told that you get this shot, you won't get COVID. We now know that people who were vaccinated, then got COVID, most of those had an increased immune problem, and that's why we're seeing a lot of autoimmune patients. Now, not every single person has that. Most of those people have some things in common. Most of them, in my 4-year experience of dealing with thousands of injured patients, whether they were injected or infected, they all almost always have same commonalities. They've got underlying predispositions of metabolic disorder. They're either overweight, they've got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or they've got some type of metabolic syndrome like diabetes. That's a pre-existing issue. If you've got that, you should be working on fixing that, not taking a drug to manage it, but to reverse it. And doesn't it make sense to reverse it? I mean, individuals who were at the highest risk of COVID had pre-existing conditions. The average person that died from COVID, by the way, the average age of a death from COVID in the US was almost 80 years of life. 80-year-olds, by the way, the average life expectancy for the average male and female in America is 78 and 76 years of age. So that's interesting if you think about that from a common sense standpoint. But they told us that if you get the shot, you can't get COVID. That was a lie. They lied to us. By the way, where was the FTC on that? Where was the FDA on that? Those were false claims, false advertising. And who cares if it's the government? Like when I was going through my lawsuit, the government was able to continue their suit 3 times. They were allowed to continue the trial. They sued me for $508 billion. And when I was ready to go to trial in 6 months, they said, judge, we're not ready to go to trial. What do you mean? You sued me for $508 billion. They never thought I would do it. And then they continued it 3 times again. And the judge said, well, it's the government. Like, that's not okay. Is that okay with you? No, it shouldn't be okay. All right. They also told us that myocarditis was not a risk. We knew that, and it's been proven by the CDC. Okay. That conspiracy is no longer a conspiracy. That's a fact. Natural immunity is stronger and often stronger than a vaccine. The Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine support that conversation now, and so do other doctors. Doctors are now going, yeah, of course, if you got the flu already, you don't need a flu shot. If you got COVID already, you don't need a COVID shot. Your body's immune to it. So they threw that common sense out the window. Now, PCR test, okay? The WHO and the CDC now have said, hey, PCR threshold cycle was way too high, way too high. It should have been like 20 to 25. They were doing amplifications of like 40 and 50. That's why you were finding labs that were having 100% positive rates on their PCR tests. It's silly. You don't do that. mRNA spike circulating longer than claimed. That's another conspiracy. No, that's a fact. We now know without a shadow of a doubt. It's been published in multiple peer-reviewed medical journals. Just recently, in the Journal of Nature magazine, they showed that some individuals who were injected with COVID 2 or 3 years ago still have circulating spike protein in their body, and that spike protein that's turning out to be one of the main culprits in this problem. So again, I'm going over the conspiracies that are now known to be true. You guys, why can't we talk about this? This is goofy. Like, we should be able to have these conversations. This is common sense. This is affecting you, me, and everybody. I'm a physician. This is my job. It's my responsibility. I put my hand on a Bible and swore to do no harm and to help folks. So not talking about it is doing harm. Early treatment protocols. So we were told that early treatment protocols were complete BS. Well, now doctors, hospitals, and medical research journals are now admitting that there are treatments that absolutely 100% block the progression of this. In fact, I was just at the hospital about 2 weeks ago, talking to a doctor friend of mine who's there. We were having lunch, and I was talking about some business with them. He's a hospitalist there at one of the largest hospitals here in St. Louis, Missouri. And he said to me, we were talking about COVID because there's this new strain going around. I said, how's that going? He said, oh, it's just a flu. It always has been, always will be. I said, well, how do you treat them? And he said, you're going to love this. He goes, they come in, we give them an IV ringer bag. So we give them fluids and hydration. We send them home, tell them to rest for 24 to 48 hours, tell them to stay hydrated, go get some vitamin D, go get some zinc and vitamin C, and just rest, eat clean food and chill. And when you're feeling better in a day or two, go back to your normal life. And I just laughed and I said, well, that's what I told people. And I got sued for $500 billion. I told them some more stuff, but that was a lot as well. These are some of the conspiracy theories of COVID-19 that are now true. And I said, why can't we talk about these common sense conversations? This is what I'm going to bring up next month when I'm speaking in front of this global group of doctors, politicians, and lawmakers and decision makers about what we got wrong. We have to make sure we don't get it wrong again. Number 9, masking. Oh boy, especially cloth mask. Listen, if you want to wear one because that's your decision and that's your culture and do that. No problem. I got no judgment. But listen, I'm just telling you, there's a joke I want to tell you about people who are wearing masks in their cars alone. I can't tell you because it's not PG-13, but let's just say it's pretty funny. But listen, if you want to wear a mask and that makes you feel comfortable and feel better, man, go for it. And there are legitimate reasons why people wear masks. Look, I go to Asia a lot on business, and in Japan and in China and in these other regions, it's pretty common in their culture to wear a mask. They don't do anything. They cause a lot more harm than good. They can help in some cases if there's really bad, like, mold or pollen or really big, thick particles that get stuck on the mask, but not a virus. That's going to get right through there. We now know unequivocally that's, masks are largely ineffective. And how much money was spent on those? I mean, billions of dollars were spent on that. Number 11, hospital deaths were sometimes incentivized. That's been confirmed by federal reimbursement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and it's been confirmed by all the insurance companies. If a patient was labeled as death by COVID, the doctors were incentivized, the hospitals were incentivized, and unfortunately, if your spouse died, you got between $7,000 and $9,000 to go bury your spouse. So they were like, yeah, put it on the death certificate because everybody was paid off on it. That's a fact. We know that to be true. There's no questioning that. Number 12, COVID causes long-term neurological and immune dysfunction. Studies now acknowledge that all day. We know that there's POTS now, positional orthostatic tachycardia. There's all this dysautonomia, autoimmune problems. We know that there's massive amounts of turbo cancers, which I've been a doctor for almost 22 years. I've never heard of that term before. It was that term and adult sudden death syndrome. Like, what the hell even is that? Adult sudden death syndrome. Like, that doesn't make any sense, like, at all. What is that? We didn't hear about that till 2020, 21 or 22. Okay, number 13, big pharma profited immensely. We know that billions, tens of billions was made by Pfizer, Moderna, actually hundreds of billions was made between all of those. And it rushed in this new mRNA technology, which is what they wanted to do. They just, man, they misfired on this thing bad. I don't know. I want to just leave it at that. I don't know. But I want to come from a place of like, here's the facts. What are we going to do about it? By the way, I'm reading to you guys, those of you that just joined me, Dr. Eric Naputi. I'm going to be speaking next month in front of a large group of politicians, lawmakers, decision makers, scientists, and researchers about the most controversial topic in healthcare, which is COVID-19, still to this day, 5 years later. Insane. Number 14, gene-based vaccines tech was experimental. Yes, it was. It was the first mass use lipid nanotechnology ever. And normally, when we roll out a new technology, we study it for 8 to 10 years. There was a reason why Congress granted the FDA the ability to fast track these COVID shots through the emergency use authorization. Well, part of that criteria was there was like a 16 checkpoint criteria that the FDA had to make sure was met. And one of those was there couldn't be any other treatments, therapeutics, or modalities that could prevent, reverse, treat, or cure COVID-19. That's why everything was vilified. That's why ivermectin, vitamin D, all these things were vilified. I mean, you go right now. If you go right now, there's a website called C19early.com. It's the letter C, 19early.com. It's C19early.com. Dr. Harvey Risch, MD, PhD from Yale, put that site together, and it's got thousands of research that supports exactly that, early treatments and other things. Number 15, the virus was already circulating before China admitted it. So that's been confirmed in retrospective sampling and studies. That's been in medical journals already. So I will tell you that in November of 2019, November of 2019, I got really, I had a cough that lasted almost 2 months and I couldn't get rid of it. It was interesting to say the least. And that's probably when I contracted, COVID was at that time. That's my opinion, because I never really got sick, but I had the antibodies already in 2020, late 2024. And I obviously never got a shot. I have no intention of that. Number 16, the emergency use authorization was politically and commercially driven, 100%. Freedom of Information Acts have already proven that. These documents show that that's happened, and there's massive conflicts of interest and major pressures and a lot of money that got thrown around. In fact, here's a wild one. I didn't tell a lot of people this. So you guys know I was sued by the U.S. federal government because I showed that there were some therapeutics that were out there and that were beneficial, and they didn't want that information out. And so when we brought that info to the table, the government tried to do everything they could to suppress that. They hired a doctor as a hitman, one doctor from Washington University School of Medicine, which I do work at that freaking genome. It was weird. But anyway, this doctor who never studied my work, the FTC gave him about 2 or 3 hours of 1,600 hours of content and tried to make a case out of it. Well, we found out, because we did an investigation, that doctor who came after me got a $9 million grant from Tony Fauci and NIAID and NIH to make COVID vaccines here in St. Louis. So that guy had $9 million to make sure that the information I was giving people was not going to be put out there. So yes, it was very politically driven. Number 17, mRNA vaccines cross the placenta and breast milk. Now that's been confirmed in multiple studies. We know that unequivocally it's been confirmed in multiple studies. Digital vaccine passports were planned before the pandemic. That's now part of the WHO and the European Union's health certificate agendas. We know that to be the case. And by the year 2030, they want to put that in globally. So just be aware of that. These are all conspiracy theories that are now facts. Just giving you a heads up. I'm going to be sharing this and much more when it comes to next month when I'm presenting in front of a group of doctors, lawmakers, and researchers on the most controversial topic in healthcare, COVID-19. Number 19, people were canceled for telling the truth. Yep. How you doing? We used to reach 10, sometimes 15 million people a week on social media. And now, man, it's crazy. It's still to this day. My name was one of the doctors that was in the Twitter files. Their name was censored there. When we did our discovery, we found that the Biden administration got a hold of Meta and other places and said, go shut these guys down. And I was one of those names. All right, number 20. The vaccine adverse effects reporting system was underreporting. The FDA admitted that it's underreporting between a 10x and 100x. We know that, so that's not even a question anymore. Number 21, mental health, addiction, and suicide spiked during the lockdown. I mean, statistics have proven that across the board. So we know that, unfortunately, we entered into an era. They're saying the next 14 years, from 2021 for the next 14 years, is going to be one of the craziest times moving forward when it comes to, mental health. We have a massive mental health crisis, and there's so much that can be done, especially our young children. I mean, our kids that are my kids' age, guys that were, and girls that were in high school. My son was a freshman, 2020. So his whole high school career was just a joke. He was a sports guy, missed the whole first year. And then because of COVID, and then college now is all screwed up. It's just really weird what happened. Number 21, immunity passports. We know those are definitely legit. The WHO pandemic treaty, the treaty draft shows plans for global control of health crisis. And number 2025, there was a media narrative that controlled this. Whether you like him or not, Elon and Doge found that NIAID was giving tens of millions of dollars to certain media outlets that were there, paying them to perpetuate a story, to perpetuate one side of the story. So pretty wild and crazy what happened. But why is that such a controversial topic? Why can't we discuss that globally? I mean, is it because it's kind of like the Martin Luther King files or the JFK files? Why don't you want those released? It's not like those people are still alive today, but it's because it damns industries, and it damns the industrial complex of big medicine, big pharma, big media, big food, and big government, right? And so they don't want to be exposed for what they are. So that's why it's important that we, the people, are able to have these conversations. Listen, we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers in high, evil, dark places. I just want you to remember that, because that's truthful. And folks, the truth will always set you free. So listen, I just wanted to share with you some of the conversational points that I've had, and some of the notes that I've had building up this talk. I was asked to come and speak next month. I'm going to go do it. And it's going to be a global conversation, talking about a non-biased perspective, which is hard for me to be non-biased, but I'm going to do my best. A perspective of the most controversial topic in healthcare today, which is the pandemic and COVID-19. Crazy that we live through that. But listen, I want you to understand that you have the ability, you have the responsibility to understand that your health is all about yourself. Self-care is the real healthcare. The more you understand how to take care of yourself and heal yourself, and now this whole shift has happened from conventional medicine to now, they're calling it alternative medicine. Well, the alternative medicine is just a term that means to heal, the art of healing. That's what medicine means. It comes from a Greek word, and there's lots of different types of medicine. There's allopathic medicine. There's Ayurvedic medicine. There's Chinese medicine. There's Irish medicine. There's all these things, right? And it's interesting how the ones that are wrong a lot try to censor and suppress the ones that are correct a lot. And now the shift has happened. They are doing everything they can to shut up every social media influencer, to make it so overwhelming to you that you don't know who to trust or where to get your information from. So look, I see you guys watching from all over the world. Give me a thumbs up if you guys agree with what I'm talking about. Give me a comment if talk to me a little bit about what concerns do you have about our healthcare system, and let me know where in the world you're watching from. And when I do the full presentation, I'll share that with you so that you can see that and hear that as well. Folks, I got to get back to my office, and I got patients I got to help, because that's what I do. I help people. Doctor is Latin for teacher. My job is to teach, reach, and inspire as many people as we can. So guys, until we meet again, it's Dr. Eric Naputi. God bless you. God bless America. God bless all of you that are watching all over the world from Germany and Spain and Switzerland and Norway and Malaysia and Japan and all over the world. Have an amazing day. And remember, knowledge is power, but wisdom, it's taking that knowledge you learn and applying it to your life. It'll give you peace, it'll give you satisfaction, and that'll give you wholeness. Guys, I love and appreciate you. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to y'all soon. Be well.